This is Get Real with Bob and Stacy, the show that helps you learn about the mortgage and real estate markets. Get the inside scoop from their expert list of guests and have some fun along the way. Now, here's Bob Gallagher and Stacy Alcorn.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Real Estate Matters here on the Money Matters Radio Network. I'm your host, Bob Gallagher, joined in the studio today by my trusty co-host, Pete DeMore Sr.
Hi, Bob.
And our special guest today, Andrew Abu from Andrew Abu Realtors right here in Westboro.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show. We're excited about it. So we were talking before we got started today about the crazy market that we've been in. And, 1 minute it's, a year ago, it seemed like things were never going to turn around. And here we are in, May of 2014, and prices are, I wouldn't say going through the roof, but steadily increasing. It's tough to find properties. What do you think is going to happen next? Especially in your, you cover the boroughs and surrounding area, right?
Exactly, right.
Are you seeing a lot of multiple bidding situations? And
we are. One of the things that is of great concern for me, because I represent a lot of listings and represent mostly sellers in my business about 75% of the time. One of the concerns that I have is that you do get into these situations where you might have 2 or 3 people focused on a property, have a multiple offer situation, and just assisting the client and trying to pick the best person for their house. It's really sort of a difficult aspect of the business. One of the things that winds up happening is that as you sit down and you go through the offers with people, trying to assess who's the most motivated buyer, who has the best financing, who has the best terms for the seller, those are all things of great concern. Even though the market's been very active and there have been multiple bids, one of the things that has been distressing for us is that we do have scenarios where houses will go under agreement and then for one reason or another, the transaction will fall apart and we'll have to get started all over again. Mm-hmm.
Now,
is it complicated?
Is it falling apart because buyers are being a little more picky when it comes to home inspections because they feel they're paying a premium for the houses now? Or is it stuff that actually is a legitimate concern?
I definitely think that it's the former, not the latter. I think one of the problems that we have is that because many of the buyers out there are so pressured that they feel that, we have to jump on this house right away. We have to pay more than we might be comfortable paying for it. And then all of a sudden when the dust settles, they start to question themselves. Gee, is that really the right house? We reacted so quickly. Maybe something better will come along. And that's been problematic. And then sometimes the transactions are falling apart even before you get to home inspection. But your point is absolutely correct that one of the issues is that when things come up at home inspection, it does scare off a lot of buyers. So you have to do a really great job in getting your home prepared for sale. That's the first thing to anticipate. And then also you have to work with these people when things do happen and when things present themselves. One of the issues that we have with a lot of sellers is that they've gone from feeling sort of desperate and anxious to feeling so overly confident. It was like the pendulum just swung completely to the other side. And that's a problem because instead of feeling really grateful about having a great offer from a great buyer, they're kind of thinking, I sold my house too cheaply. Gee, maybe I should have waited for more offers to come in. Maybe we should have pressed harder in that multiple offer negotiation. So it gets to be a little difficult. And of course, our job as realtor and part-time psychologist, where you're sitting with people all the time and trying to help them navigate through those decisions. Mm-hmm. But it is good, when you think about as it relates to sort of the preparation of these houses, the more that you can do, the more that you can be proactive, the more you can take those problems out of your way, out of your path.
Now, what things does it make sense to actually invest in if you're a seller and you're getting ready to put the house on the market?
Well, when the conversation that I have with sellers all the time is that let's talk about, what monies are available and what you could do. But it just starting, even when someone says to me, gee, I'm in a difficult situation financially, then we start with organizing, cleaning, painting, the things that are very little financial investment but give the most bang for the buck. Oftentimes just by getting your house organized, by making it look better to people, you can do so much for the property. And it kills me when I look and I see some sellers who go into this where it's as if they just let the realtor in and snapped a bunch of pictures in their current living situation, which of course is not show ready in my mind. So over the years, even 24 years ago when I got into the business, I was very aggressive with people about presenting their homes in a certain way. And that's a big part of my brand and the expectations that go with it. When people list with my company, when other realtors are looking at those listings, there is an expectation that those houses, even if they're not the most expensive house, they could be the condominium I sold in Westboro last year for $100,000 or a $3 million house. The expectation with my brand is that you're going to walk into a very clean, well-staged, well-organized house, and you're going to be dealing with professional sellers and what I mean by that is that people that have had everything laid out for them so that they understand what's important, they understand how they're going to go through the process, they're going to disclose the things they need to disclose, and they're going to be treated with respect, and in exchange, they're probably going to do better than the average person getting their home sold.
What about pricing your home to sell? What's your best advice there?
It's so important to really look at the information that you're being provided. So often, for instance, a few weeks ago, I had a situation in which I was being interviewed, and I know there were 3 other agents that were being interviewed, and I said to the woman, which sometimes I don't even get to this because a lot of times I feel like when I get there, it's between me and maybe one other person. But I knew that in this situation, she was not totally head over heels for me, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And so I said to her, what is the thing that you're most concerned about in making this decision about who you're going to choose? And she said to me, the price. And I thought, wow, that's such a bad answer. Mm-hmm. And I told her so nicely. But I definitely said to her, my advice would be that price should be the last item that you discuss. And the first item should be, what qualifications do you have? How are you going to market our home? What kind of a relationship are we going to have? What's the expectation about communication? There are so many other things that are so much more important before you get to the pricing discussion. And not that pricing isn't important, obviously, but I think once you feel that we're going to have a good working relationship, that I've hired the most professional person that I can find, then you can go on to having a really great discussion about pricing.
Mm-hmm. Now, I imagine you've had some frustration over the years. Have you ever actually had a seller sit down with you and say, when you gave them the number, say, "Oh my God, is it really worth that much? I thought it was worth so much less." Or is it whenever you say the number, they're like, "Oh, geez, I really thought it was worth $30,000 more than that."
It's funny because every once in a while you get somebody that is a little bit shocked. I mean, obviously when the market was great, and, I tell people, back in 2005 and 2006 when I bought my last house, unfortunately, you felt like a hero because you'd walk in and you'd say, "Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I really think your home, could be worth $600,000." And they said, "Oh, well, I thought it was worth $500,000. That's fantastic news." And you'd sell it quickly, and they just sing your praises. "Gee, Andrew got the money that we wanted. Andrew was able to do this." And then all of a sudden the tables turned, and it was so incredibly challenging. And that's one of the things that's been kind of funny now, is that we're almost back in that attitude of, well, gee, the number that you're giving us isn't as high as we thought it should be. And unfortunately, I have a theory that I feel like anybody that asked any realtor during the highest of the high point what my house is worth, and say the answer is 600, that they feel because we're having a return to some success that 600 is the valid number again. Mm-hmm. They never came down as much as they should have come down, and also we're not up as high as we used to be either. So sometimes that's a little bit difficult. The other thing that's happening is this whole attitude of, gosh, we're giving our house away and the market's so hot, because as you know, a lot of the news that we get sort of comes east to west. So it was hard getting people aware of how bad the market was for a while. And then once they woke up to that, they were better. But now that the market's getting better, especially east of our market, they're hearing that news, and they're hearing about, their friends that maybe live in Natick, Wellesley, Needham, Newton, that are getting lots and lots of offers, selling over asking price. And our market just isn't quite as robust as that.
Right.
Hi, Andrew. Pete Demori. When you get a customer that you price the house at $600,000 and they're adamant that it's worth $700,000, a difference of $100,000, how do you handle that with them?
Well, it really depends. That's such a great question, because sometimes people will ask me, and I'm gonna try to remember to answer the whole question, so please remind me if I don't.
Okay.
But let me start with this. Sometimes there's a curious question that comes out from sellers that'll say, "Hey, Andrew, what is your average days on the market?" And I'll look at them and say, "Well, why?" And they'll say, "Well, we want to know that you're pricing things appropriately." And at face value, it seems like a really good question, but what I always tell them is that my business is a relationship business. It's so different than what you might expect it to be. And because of that, if I happen to like you and feel that you're good, honest people and that we're going to have a transaction of integrity and we're going to work well together, I might, if pushed, accept your higher price, even though I know it's probably not the best thing to do for you, with your consent. And if you really feel that you need to do that, I'll try with you. So there are times that I will take a listing even that might be priced a little bit higher than I'd like, but feeling that we'll stick together, we'll work together. If it works out great and you prove me wrong, that's terrific. If you don't, we'll be there keeping it fresh and keeping it marketed. So it's hard, because when I feel that somebody is not going to be a great match for me, then at that point we'll walk away. That you'll say, "I don't think I can help you. Perhaps you'd be better with another agent."
Sure. Excellent.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we see too, and I'm sure you see that because you tend to represent your past customers on both sides when they're buying and selling.
Yes.
Why is it that when people are selling, they're adamant about their price and not paying for anything that comes up in a home inspection and not wanting to reduce? But even in today's market, when they're out there as a buyer, they want to offer 5% less, and there's chipped paint, so they want $20,000 off the purchase price. Why is it people just can't bridge the gap? When they're acting as both buyer and seller, they just have wildly different expectations.
They do, and again, I think a lot of it, and one of the things that I preach to my agents is always, you know what, spend a little time. Don't just jump in the car with people and start immediately looking at properties. How about an interview process? That's something I want to remember to talk about too, is just that whole interview process.
Let me stop you there for one second, because I want to give the audience your contact information. It's Andrew Abu Realtors, and you're in Westboro, but you cover the boroughs and all the surrounding area, correct?
Correct.
And the best number to get a hold of you or somebody on your team is 508-836-3333. Again, it's 508-836-3333.
That's a tough one for a speech
Really,
impediment, isn't it?
that's really tough.
I'm so careful when I say 3.
I was actually going to say 3,333 because it sounded better than 4 3s, but I didn't want to cut you off. So getting back to what you were talking about.
No problem. What were we talking about? I've already forgotten. The life of a realtor. See what happens?
It does happen a lot, doesn't it? We were talking about the expectations.
Yes, the expectation gap. So one of the things that I feel is really important too is that looking at the percentage off that things are selling for, that's a great sort of starting point with someone. And it's one of the things that, as a buyer's agent, you pick someone up at the airport, for instance, or you're taking them out for the first day and you're saying to them, okay, we're going to be looking at houses. If your price point is $500,000, then we should be looking at houses that are priced relatively closely because things are selling at or very close to the listing price. And so if you do a good job educating those people right off the bat, that really, really helps out a lot, and you have less misunderstanding about that. But it is harder. One of the things that we're seeing right now is that some of my clients that I've sold a couple houses to that are now downsizing or perhaps moving eastward, one of the things that gets them crazy is that they feel like, gee, when we sold our house in Westboro, we had to do all these things. You made us paint everything. You made us clean out. And now we're looking at these condos in Needham, and they're not as clean. They're not as well staged. They have more issues. That's part of that can be a problem too. But it has to do with the market. So I think it's great if you can just really look at that, look at the numbers that people are taking, understand what the comparables are, understand that the market is trending upward. I wouldn't want to venture a guess as to what that's going to be in the next 12 months, but it is one of those things that is challenging. And again, I think if you just can talk them through doing a good job of getting their houses ready to go, they're going to have fewer issues when it comes to home inspection.
That makes sense. Now, it doesn't make sense to, put in granite countertops if you have Formica or anything like that if you're selling it, does it?
It really depends. With people, we were talking earlier about people loving granite and expecting every property to have these great counters. And there are still people out there that feel like they don't like granite the best and they wouldn't want that. But the whole overall feel that you get in the house, the cleanliness level, doing things with painting, that's such a great investment to bring things up to date. And we do a lot of recoloring with people where, instead of making these huge capital improvements, we're doing things like that make the house appear more fresh. A lot of times it's as simple as deleting some of the original furniture, taking down some of the artwork, certainly taking away all the personal pictures and things that make the house feel so personal to that seller.
Right. And I want to give out your contact information again. It's Andrew Abu Realtors, and our guest here is Andrew Abu. If you want to get a hold of him, you can do so at 508-836-3333. That actually sounds better, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, absolutely.
508-836-3333.
Or Andrew at andrewabu.com is easy also.
Absolutely. And you also have a website. It's andrewabu.com. Did you just give that out?
No.
Or did you give out your email?
It's kind of both. It's
Yeah.
andrewabu.com. And the email, again, is andrew at andrewabu.com.
Excellent. And you've been a great guest. We appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And again, I'm going to give out your number one last time just for those people who didn't catch it. It's 508-836-3333. Stay tuned. We're going to take a break for commercials. We'll have more after this.